Ahead and press it. Yep. And so we're live now. So we'll go ahead and let everybody start coming into the room. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening for this session of the Pro Coach Basketball Summit. Layson Perkins here, and we are always excited and honored to have Ryan join us for a clinic session. I've had the opportunity to host him before, and tell you what, get your paper, get your pens ready to go, because I know he's going to really provide some great ideas and some great content for us tonight on talking about how to attack different pick and roll coverages. So Ryan, I know you got a lot you want to cover, so just take it away.
Yeah, Layson, thank you very much for having me. To be honest, as I kind of went down this rabbit hole of attacking these different coverages, there are so many different concepts when it comes to attacking switching defense and ice pick and roll coverage, drop pick and roll coverage. And I tried to divide the video into a few different things, a few skill development things to work on, some concepts to work on, and then tactics, some sets to attack different situations. Some of this stuff is going to be things that you've heard before. Some of the points of emphasis might be different. If anyone has any questions throughout, don't hesitate to ask throughout the video. The video is kind of 37 minutes. It was about 2 hours long, and I chopped it down to 37 minutes, which is still too long, but we'll try to get through as much as we can, and I'll try not to stop too much. Like I said, if anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to ask. So first, we'll kind of start out with some concepts that work no matter what pick and roll defense you're playing against. It doesn't matter if you're playing, apologize 1 second, turn the volume down. Doesn't matter if you're playing against switching defense, hard show, quick show, flat show, ice coverage drop, right? Very first thing that you want to look, and it applies to everything, is rejecting the pick and roll. Okay, and I've talked about it before on different clinics. Very first option in terms of pick and roll offense is to reject the pick and roll, right? Because the defense is not prepared for failure. Most teams, in terms of working on pick and roll defense, right, they spend minimum, 95% of the time working on the ball handler using the screen, right, and maximum 5% on what to do if the ball handler rejects the screen, right? And when your defense is not prepared for failure, your rotations are not as crisp, greater chance of defensive rotation breakdowns, which leads to free throws, layups, and threes. Now, next thing I think that is extremely under talked about in terms of pick and roll is pick and roll setup, okay? Once again, this applies to all different types of coverage, okay? And so when you're thinking about getting to the point of the pick and roll, okay, you want to create separation from your defender. Ideally, the screener comes without his man, and the ball handler comes without his man. And too many times when we go to play pick and roll, especially in America, we're in a rush to get to the screen, right? There's an art to setting your man up. So if you look at these different coverages right here you can see the reject. Now he gets to the point of the screen, which separation. And once again, it does not matter what pick and roll coverage you're playing against, okay? If you can get to the point of the screen with separation from your defender, okay, you're going to soften the defense. And these are all clips, side pick and roll, high pick and roll, different ways. And what you can see here, and these are all against different coverages. Some of them are against aggressive pick and roll coverages. Some of them are against drop, switch, everything. I try to put a little bit of everything in the beginning of it. But what you'll see here, right, is at the point, okay, Bobby Dixon is without his defender. You can see the separation, right? And here the defense breaks down. It's over. Right at that point, when you get to the point of the screen without your defender, right, you have a greater chance of success. And so if you look to reject the pick and roll and they play good defense, right, worst case scenario, you have a much better setup going into your pick and roll. Now, there's some details that go into your skill work. Like if you watch this, okay, watch Pangos here. Watch his left foot, the way that he jabs, shifting that defender over, now getting to the point of that screen with, right, 1.5 feet of separation, okay, which now changes everything. And even if you're playing against drop coverage, if you don't have that defender pressuring you on your hip, right, pushing you out in position for that rear view contest, right, you're going to have better window for your pocket passes, better window for your finish, and you're putting more stress and pressure on that big man. And this is just a little nuance here. You can watch Jacoven Brown, right? Watch him go between his legs, and then that little hesitation. And that little bit of hesitation makes his defender think, is he rejecting the pick and roll or using it, right? And the moment you get that defender to think, you've created that little bit of separation. And that's all high-level players need to be able to make that pocket pass, that quick hook pass to attack that defense. And there's multiple ways, right, to get into your pick and roll setups, right? And these are things that are very, very important in your skill workouts, right? Same thing. Here you can see he attacks, shifts the defender lower, gets to the point of the screen without his man, can get downhill, okay? This is against more aggressive pick and roll coverage, right? That little bit of separation allows him for that quick hook pass. And this is something that is under taught and under preached and is super important in any pick and roll play. Once again, that goes into your team philosophy for regardless of the coverage you are playing against. It's something that's got to be drilled and taught. Okay. And now you've got live ball, triple threat. Okay. You can work on both. Okay. Next thing is creating separation into the pick and roll based off your concepts. And so if you watch the NBA playoffs, right, the way that the Miami Heat did it, they were very, very good, especially with Tyler Hero, right, utilizing get action, chase action, whatever your terminology is. But there's a few ways, right, coming in and creating that separation when you're off the ball getting into the screen. So here you'll see the player just dead sprints, and that dead sprint, look at that separation at the point of the screen. Same thing. Now look at the separation between the big defender, the guard defender, right? He's out of position either to veer switch onto the big or to stay connected, put pressure on the hip of the guard, which allows a high percentage play. Okay, and there's multiple ways to create that situation. The Heat were using a lot of stagger handoffs. Okay, you can get into your Spinoulis action. So here, this is what is commonly referred to as a Spinoulis action in Europe. And so now you can just see at the point of that screen, that separation, okay? And with that separation, right, with high-level guards, high-level decision makers, the play's over. That's all they need is that little bit of separation. And working on these details between your pick and roll setups and your offensive tactics is really going to help improve your offensive team, right? And so, you know, this is just a set play. And so I put this in here once again so you can just see all of the movement that goes into the set play, right, to basically get to the point of the screen with that separation, which allows high-level decision makers to pick apart the defense and where the advantage is coming from. Next thing, regardless of the pick and roll coverage, as I said, this was a 2-hour video. So before it had a bunch of clips of hard show, quick show, flat show. I had to trim it down to get it 37 minutes, is off-ball cuts, right? So I think what's really important is this. Movement before the pick and roll and movement after the pick and roll attacks every pick and roll coverage. And if you watch a lot of the NBA playoffs, right, it's very isolation based at times, and obviously that's for all teams. But I think the more movement you can have before the pick and roll, the more movement you can have after the pick and roll, right, is going to create a better chance of success because you're breaking that shell defense and you're putting help defenders in positions that they're uncomfortable with. Okay, so here you've just got, right, against drop pick and roll coverage, just some different cuts. And cutting is one of the highest percentage plays in the game of basketball. Okay, it's one of the highest percentage plays. And then you've got sacrificial cuts, right? So here you'll see the Jazz, right? They've got that same 45 cut. It takes the low man, creates that 3, right? So cutting with a purpose to improve your offense in terms of what you're doing in pick and rolls is extremely important. Usually one of the 3 off-ball defenders in some way, shape, or form, right, is going to lose sight of their man or overcommit to helping. And those are the guys that you want to look to attack. This is now against switching defense. Okay, so here you'll see against the switch, right, instead of it just being more isolation game after the switch or at the point of the screen, once again, because it's switching defense, and this is what happens, right? You can just see 5 guys have their eyes on the ball. 5 guys have their eyes on the ball in the penetration. And the reason behind that is, right, the natural human reaction against that switch is you're worried about your big getting attacked off the bounce, and you're worried about him getting beat and putting you in rotations. And so if you can really get your guys to understand and value the concepts of cutting, right, you can generate high percentage layups, fouls, right, and then sacrificial cuts that are going to attract a low man and generate threes. And these are, once again, it applies to every pick and roll coverage that you play against. And there's some really good things to do, and we'll go through some of the concepts in terms of the angles that you drive. So like for me, a baseline drive, you want to look at 45 cuts. Okay. And we'll get into that a little bit later, specifically attack and drop coverage, right? But middle drive equals baseline cut. So those are just things to think about, right? And the reason why is this, specifically with the way that modern defenses are going to build. Okay, you've got your low man here is going to pull in, right? Typically, Schroeder's going to fan out, right, to be in that position, to be the X out guy, and those guys fall asleep. So oftentimes with baseline penetration, you can 45 cut the X out defender. And it's just something to keep in mind as you're looking at improving your offense. Next thing, in terms of attacking all pick and roll coverages, not just switch, ice, drop, but flat show, hard show, quick show, doesn't matter, is the movement after the pick and roll, right? So that fill behind and value in the fill behind. And I spoke about it in some of the other clinics that I've done, and the international tactics, trends, and concepts of really valuing that fill behind. But that was just in terms of general on penetration. And here it's broken down by coverage. And once again, the point of the drop is to try to solve that pick and roll 2-on-2 with the ball handler defender and the big defender. But if you go through and you watch in the NBA playoffs, even in the drop, okay, usually one of the 3 off-ball defenders is going to turn their head and lose sight. And what you're banking on, right, is for 24 seconds, the off-ball defenders are not going to be engaged. Someone's going to lose focus. I mean, it's hard enough to get guys to defend on the ball and be engaged and communicate and be active for 24 seconds, let alone off the ball. And those are the guys you want to look to attack, especially when you're playing against really good drop pick and roll coverages, right? Those 2 guys that are engaged and on the ball do a really good job. But the moment that you're moving, even this little bit of movement here, right, you can see it. Okay, just that small movement is now creating that closeout and is going to put the defense into rotations. And you want to look to attack closeouts. Nowadays, modern offense is played through the closeout, and you want to really try to attack that coverage through the closeouts with your off-ball movement. Same thing, baseline drive, fill behind, it's very small. But these are things, that are extremely important in attacking all coverages.
So Ryan, how would you practice this, and what rules would you put in place for your teams to get those cuts?
And cuts or fill behinds?
I'd say both the fill behinds and the cuts.
Okay, very quickly, I'll kind of go through a few things, right? So this is, I can give you just some of the things that we do. I'll start with cuts. And so you can build it up in your warm-up drills that you're doing with your team and when you're trying to get ready for practice, right? So let's just say you've got a line here, you've got a line here. Okay, guard, doesn't matter, big. You've got a coach here with the ball. Just a quick swing, attack the catch, baseline drive, okay, second dribble. Okay, 45 cut. And you really want to wait on this second dribble because on that first dribble, right, this defender is going to be here. The second dribble, he's going to start to shift down to become that fan out guy because this guy's defender is going to pull over to defend. So what you want, right, on this coverage here is bang, first dribble, second dribble, hard cut across the top, right? And so that's just a simple way to get into it in your warm-ups, right? And the way that you warm up with your team, and then you can start mixing in the different finishes that you want. And then you can also obviously add to it. You can make it even more valuable, right? So now if you want to get to your middle, it's the same thing, right? So you've got your guard, you've got your baseline. Okay, you've got your coach. Same thing. You can have him drive the nail to pull the guard's defender in. Now you've got the NBA concept of the stampede. So the coach can drive the nail, pitch it, attack the catch, get downhill, right? Now you've got that baseline cut because his defender is going to shift over. And so those are just simple ways to get into it and build up your offense. Now, if you want to work on your fill behinds, same thing, simple team shooting. Okay, so you've got your guard situation, you've got your guard situation. Okay, so you can start out having it like this. Okay, guard, or coach can pass to him, penetrate, right? Now he just sprints and fill behind. Okay, so now if you want to get real elaborate with it, you can begin to build it up, right? So now you've got guard, 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 can also be bigs, doesn't matter for perimeter players, right? This guy's penetrating, he's filling behind, he's filling behind. Reverse pivot, so you want that reverse pivot. This would be a left-hand outside hook pass. You want him directly behind. Hit, right? And then now this guy can sprint out and you can hit him for a three. That way you're really working on relocation threes and building it up. But there's a lot of different drills that you can use to incorporate in terms of building your team shooting, your team layups, the way that you warm up for your practices. All of that can apply.
Sounds good.
Okay, same thing. These are just different. You can just see it. Ice, weak, shifting that defender, right? Playing through the fill behind. And it's something that is extremely important, under-taught, undervalued. And like I say, if you go back and you watch through the NBA playoffs, right, when the defense is getting stagnant and you can see players that begin to, right, lose sight of the ball because they're so focused, especially in America, right? Our guys are so good with the basketball. All of the player development that they do, which is a separate conversation, is with the ball in their hands. And they're so dynamic, getting downhill, putting the ball in their hands, right, that everyone watches them, right? And we move less, we cut less, we fill less. And those are all concepts that apply to all pick and roll coverages when attacking them. Okay. Next concept to attack all different pick and roll coverages are twists and flip screens, whatever your terminology is. Once again, it doesn't matter if it's against a switch, a show, a flat, drop, ice, right? Twisting those screens, flipping those screens at the last second causes for a lot of miscommunications. And there's different sets to get into the twist screens, flip screens, and I'll say last year, this was not something we use enough of. And if I've got to be honest, I really love this set play. Especially when we think as we're watching for us with a shot clock or end of quarter situations where teams just try to isolate. I think this is a really good end of quarter set, but it's an action I really like in terms of twisting, flipping the screens, and it's something that I've really thought of that we've got to have more focus of in our team in terms of trying to utilize that more, because it's very difficult to guard and it causes a lot of miscommunications. Okay. Seals, deep seals apply to every pick and roll defense. And obviously in the analytical age, what you hear is post-ups are bad possessions, right? And there's two kinds of post-ups that are not bad possessions. All right. And this is something that in discussion, because I really looked into it last year with our analytics guy, is this: deep catches. A deep catch post possession is over 1.0 points per possession. And then a seal against a switch, right? So where the post possessions drop in points per possessions is when guys are catching it, 4 or 5 feet away from the basket and they're settling for these jumpers, right? And so if you really look at utilizing, once again, here you've got the fill behind, playing through the fill behind, that deep catch in that restricted area, that's over 1.0 points per possession. Okay. And it's very, very effective. It's something that regardless of what pick and roll defense you're playing against, you can seal it. You can seal the drop, you can seal the switch, you can seal the show, you can seal the ice. And it's something that I think has got to be continued to be developed, and getting big guys to understand, right, sealing off and creating drives, huge value. Obviously, the typical concept of playing through the big, right? Sealing the switch, very important. Okay, here's Gobert, does a good job. I mean, that's over 1.0 points per possession. You know, that is going to end up in a layup, foul, or three. And, you know, these are high value shots that you can really develop for your big guys. As the game is becoming harder and harder to get your big guys involved at times in the paint, right? And we're all looking for ways to generate layups. This is a great way. And here's the reality of it, right? The defense is not prepared. He's so engaged on the ball. And a great way to drill it is this: if you have your big guys, you know, race to the screen, race on the roll, roll to seal. And so what we teach is this, right? He's rolling hard through the pocket for that lob, for that early pocket pass. On the hook pass, he's got to find his man and crack him, right? And that was a way that I utilized this year to try to attack the drop in the G League. I thought it was effective for us, and it's not something that's utilized enough, right? And then obviously the seal off, which is huge value. Same thing, although this isn't about hard show, it's something that's not taught very often, right? You got the show here, and then seal the show. Look at that. That's incredibly hard to play against. You can generate so many high-valued shots for your teams if you get your bigs to value showing. I recommend for the American coaches, just pull a bunch of clips of Gobert. Gobert is excellent at it. You know, if you want to get your bigs to value it, get them to do that. Okay, now we'll get into attacking each coverage. Okay, as we're getting into attacking switching, there's so many different concepts to go through attacking switching. Okay, I didn't put them all on here, like attacking the switch through the offensive rebound. Okay, and some of the general concepts, there's some things that are really good that other coaches have done. You can go to YouTube, you can find them. Okay, some of this is skill work. These are things that we work on with our guards in skill work. Attack the switch also applies against the show with speed, right? Just come downhill and attack that big defender's hip with your speed. It's incredibly hard to guard. Just utilize that and get downhill. Attack that hip. Next thing, which is also very good against drop and ice, hesitations, right? If you come off, especially if you can shoot, big guys all the time with that little bit of hesitation will raise their hips, and now you want to get into a hip attack and get downhill. And these are, you know, a few of the finishes. I kind of had a bunch of, you know, the 4 or 5 finishes I really focus on against the different pick and roll coverages in the video. Once again, I had to cut it just because of the length, right? But hesitations against switch are super effective, right? Especially if you got guys that have a little bit of wiggle that can get downhill. Next one, I only put 2 clips because a lot of people know about this. In case you don't, is Tony Parker. Tony Parker used to provoke that switch, engage them, right? Retreat a little bit, and then now he would just go downhill with pure speed, right? Especially if you've got a little bit of a slower big, when you just crank up, bang, and get downhill and attack that guy. Tony Parker was excellent at that. And it's, you know, these are some of the things that, like I said, in our skill work and our skill development, if we're know that you're going to be switching pick and rolls, these are some of the ways that we try to attack it through our skill work. Next is reject the switch, which is different than rejecting the screen. Okay, so you get to the point of the switch, right? Doesn't matter if teams want a vertical show, if they want a hard show to the switch, which I actually really like. Getting your guys to reject the switch is incredibly difficult to guard. Okay, so here you'll see Zalgiris against Fenerbahce. Switch, reject the switch. Very hard to play against. And once again, it's just something that guys aren't prepared for. You're attacking that big downhill with speed. It's very difficult to guard, but it's a really good concept to incorporate in your skill work. Reject the switch. Reject the screen, number 1. Reject the switch, number 2. Okay, this is common. Everyone knows this, so I didn't put many clips. Just the typical boomerang. I think the NBA is really good at creating concepts of the boomerang and being very crafty. As we get to the plays concepts, I've got some different plays that kind of incorporate that. But I think the NBA does a really good job of being creative and kind of disguising the boomerang and the stampede action. And for me, it's really good. Okay, next one, and as I've worked for different coaches, they've tried to attack the switch different ways. So in Jerusalem with Simone Piangiani, right, most teams switch with their 4. And so what he wanted to do was provoke the switch with the 4, right, to force you to switch with your 5 or to put your 4-5 in the pick and roll, defending the 1-5, because most 4s are not going to be as good at communicating, veer switching, staying attached to the hip. And so for us in Jerusalem, when we won the title, it was really effective. It's a little bit more common, right? But there you provoke the switch. Singleton is on them. Okay, now watch. They bring the bigger, slower defender to attack that switch, right? And so it's a different concept of getting the 4 switched on them. Now you attack the weak defender and Jake Cohen. Okay, and it's a very, very effective mentality to have when you're looking to attack switching defense. You know, for me, this is a concept. You know, attacking the 4-5 in the pick and roll. That 4 and that 5 are going to be worse in the pick and roll, and communicating, execute it, staying attached, veer switching, late switching, whatever you're going to do, than the 1-5. Next is putting the big defender in help. Okay, so really good here. Okay, you've got the switch. Okay, you've got the kick, right? So we've seen the boomerang. Now what ends up happening is if you drive the help defender, the big, drive them and make them help, is big guys tend to overhelp, right? And a lot of our shell defense, they're not out on the top, right? They're in the corners when we do our 4-on-4 shell. So they're not used to being in this position. And what they end up doing is overhelping. It's their natural reaction from being the low man to overhelp and stop the drive to block the shot. So here is a really good way, right, of creating that switch, getting off it, and not just boomeranging it, which becomes a little bit more isolation. Now you're playing off that catch and kind of generating that catch and shoot 3. Here you can see, okay, the big is tight, drive. He's going to overhelp, lose sight of his man with a little bit of off-ball movement, as we talked about earlier. Catch and shoot 3, 40% shot. Great clip here of Bayern Munich with Andrea Trinchetti's team, right? You got the switch, okay, with Jan Vesely, drive him. And here you can see, right? He's in a 2-way defensive position here, right? He's going to help in and then he's got to help out. Big guys, when they're out on the perimeter, are not good at creating 1-way closeouts. They create 2-way closeouts. So it's a really good and effective way to attack that big guy. Okay, Joe Ingles here. Okay, now we're going through the post. Same thing. If you attack through the post, big guys, it is in their habits to overhelp, right? To try to block shots or trap the pick and roll, whatever your terminology is, whatever your defensive coverage is. But here you can see it. Big overhelps, kick out, playing off the closeout, allowing guys to get downhill, playing through those closeouts, creating closeout decisions. It's in the post. Watch the overhelp. Loses sight. Really good. Just very small ball off movement, right? Big guys are not used to defending on the perimeter. Catch and shoot 3. Now, this is a concept that is very popular in Europe. If you want to see it in the NBA, you can watch the way that the Miami Heat attacked the Celtics with their switching defense. I thought they did a really good job of that. Is top shoulder screens or screening under. So think about what your defensive switch rules are, right? You got to talk it, touch it, grab it, switch it, right? Switch on contact. No screen, no scheme. And so what these guys have done, you can see him pushing Melly down, is a top shoulder screen means that what he wants to do in terms of screening this defender is screen him with his top shoulder, his right shoulder. So he's created that contact, but it puts him in position to keep the switch on top. So now he can seal him high. Okay, so now you've got the switch. Okay, now he can keep that switch high for that high-low seal. Okay, and that's a really good way to attack switching defense. It's very, very difficult to guard. and it's really good to prepare. Same thing, right? Most of the time when you're talking about screening your man, you're trying to split his body, screen his lower third, etc. And this is a really good way of rolling underneath and giving yourself the advantage. Okay, same thing. You got the rescreen. Look at the angle of his rescreen, right? So when he tries to switch, he cannot switch underneath him to stand up the roll. Off ball cut. Watch this. Watch the way he even just taps his shoulder. You'll see him just kind of push his shoulder like that. Okay, obviously that may or may not be an offensive foul. In Europe, it is not. But here you can just see just that tap to force the switch, but look at the angle. Okay, you can't switch under that. Same thing. Watch him walk his defender lower. He's going to walk them lower so he's underneath them on the screen, knowing that they're switching. Okay, next way to really attack switching, I think if you, once again, if you watch what ends up happening oftentimes against a switch, okay, or late clock situations, you've got 4 guys standing around, right? Our guards are going to over dribble it. They're trying to attack the switch to score, right? 5 guys are worried about the big getting beat off the dribble, and now using these flare screens, these off-ball flares to attack switching, right? Forcing them to communicate off the ball, right? Allowing the guy with the ball handler, your primary guard, to be the magnet. His job is to be the magnet and attract the eyes of the defenders. We want 10 eyes on the ball and then attack them with off-ball flares. And I'll say this is a concept I really want to focus on and adding to my team next year. I did not do a good enough teaching it. I didn't do a good enough job talking about it. I didn't do a good enough job working on it. But for me, this is a must situation. Very effective against switches, very effective in late clock situations. Okay, very effective way to bring movement to the game. And all of these are from the same 2 games. So you can just see the way that they attack the switch through these off-ball flares, and they just create these situations late. You got the double flare there. And they're getting slips, they're getting layups, they're getting fouls, right? And if you can score in switch situations, okay, and create those as opposed to those low points per possession isolation situations, unless you have James Harden, I think it's a really good way. The next thing to think about in terms when teams are switching, their goal is to force you to become stagnant into isolation basketball. And I think in America, we oftentimes attack that switch through the guard or the big, and 2 players are involved in the switch. And we'll get into this a little bit later, instead of involving 3, 4, 5 guys, right? At the end of the day, everyone on the team just wants to touch the ball. Sure, they want to shoot the ball, but they want to touch it, right? And part of them touching it against the switch pays the defensive tax, right? It gives them energy to go down and now guard on defense. But if they're not touching the ball on offense, right, the engagement and energy and effort we're going to have on defense is going to be lower. Okay, next concept in attacking switch. This is something the Charlotte Hornets do. Dutch Gately spoke on this on a clinic. This is not my idea. I'm just sharing what he spoke about since I'm going on switching. I think this is one of the most simplest, best ways I've seen to attack switching. It's genius. Okay, so here they provoke the switch. So now they got the big in the switch, right? So now instead of isolating, they're going to send the guard into the pick and roll and slip it. And so, right, we do this all the time with the guard to guard, but how often do we have the big defending the guard and him communicating, putting him in position? Is there a screen? Is there not a screen? Does he switch? Does he stay? He's also now has to guard a slip, has to guard a pop. I think it's genius. I think it's really, really smart, an effective way to attack switching. James Borrego and his staff, Dutch Gately, I think it's brilliant. I mean, look, it's so hard to get guards to defend this and execute this perfectly. let alone a big on the ball against a guard. And worst case, you're potentially creating a closeout, right? And your closeout is a horizontal closeout, not a vertical closeout, right? Which changes everything in terms of the angle. It allows you guys to attack the screen and get downhill to attack that closeout. Any questions, Lacey? I thought I saw a question pop up.
Yeah, one question that did come up was, how do you plan on making sure you focus on the concept you talked about, the off-ball flares, during the upcoming season?
Drilling it with basically working on our switching defense, playing against a switch. Okay, and so I think, you know, and I'll say one thing for everyone, right? There's a lot of concepts in here. You can't do everything. It's not possible. This is just something for everyone to find one or two things that fits their personnel, fits their team, fits their philosophy. But I will say, off-ball flares, I think, fit everyone. And so I think the way that the game is changing, if you want to get your guys better at playing against switching defense, you have to play against switching defense more. And utilizing a few scrimmages every practice solely against switching defense, which is going to make your switching defense better, right? And then utilizing the late clock flares. When isolation, when it gets to the guard is trying to attack the big, automatic, right? You've got to have off-ball flares and slips and those readouts. But another thing I plan on doing is creating 10-second switches. So starting with 10 seconds on the shot clock, or 8 seconds on the shot clock. The big is already on the guard. The guard is already in the big. We've got him in that isolation situation. Guard has the ball on the top of the key and the floor balance that we want to attack, and then playing from there and getting our guys to really read it in 10 seconds or less. Any other questions?
No other questions.
Okay. Next is attacking switching defense on the second side. So this was the coach that I worked for in Jerusalem, Simone Piangiani. He loved to attack it with a 4-5. Okay, the second coach that I worked for, Oded Kates, loved to attack it on the second side. Oded didn't want to stop the flow. And his big thing was he wanted to keep the ball moving. He wanted to keep the defense shifting. He wanted more guys to touch the ball, to feel involved against the switch. And then this, right? Like, if you switch the first one and you're not looking to attack the switch on the strong side, the natural human reaction is the guy thinking, I've done my job. They're not trying to attack me in the post. They relax. They're off the ball. They relax. So now you attack them, bang, on that second side seal. And it's something that's really effective. It gets more guys involved. Watch how many players touch the basketball against the switch. Okay. You've got 4 guys moving without the ball. Now you can get the ball into the paint and then attack it through the post up. And so I think instead of attacking it on the strong side, right, which becomes that stagnant isolation game, now you can attack it through the second side, which will generate more of attacking the switch through the advantage, which we'll get into shortly. Right, but these are just clips, side pick and roll, high pick and roll, very simple floor balance. This is our team in Jerusalem. We've attacked the switch. We've got 1 second. This is our rule. You can catch 1 second to look. We're not stopping the flow of the offense. We continue. Okay, now this should be a deeper duck in ideally, but okay, Hamilton fell asleep. We got a good enough catch against the score. But it's just a very simple floor balance of side pick and roll to high pick and roll. Okay, sealing them high, right? It creates, right? Takes away from the help. Okay, now this is another concept, creating the switch. We've got a guy on him. We attack him through the second side that way. Now you've got 4 players that have touched the basketball when you score against the switch. Okay, now this is, in my opinion, the most important concept when attacking switching defense, and the most important, the most undertaught. And it goes, these are my opinion and my thoughts. I've got literally 150 clips of this. I just save every clip to show my team, because my team last year, early on, we kept trying to attack the switch through the guard and the big, through isolation, through the post. and we didn't get the ball moving. And the other three guys just didn't feel involved. And so I put together some clips of the way that teams attack the switch in Europe, which I thought was really helpful, the way that it involves 3, 4, 5 guys. Everyone's touching the ball. The defense is shifting. So now, in terms of us teaching mindset, and because of time that it took to put this together, these are some clips that I put together for Demetrius Hitudis' clinic, and the way that his team in CSKA attacks a switch, right? But like I said, I've got 150 clips of this, of just different teams in Europe attacking the switch this way. So when we attack the switch, our players think that the advantage in the switch is through the guard and the big, right? But oftentimes, the advantage in the switch is one of the three players not involved in the switch. And the reason why is this, right? It doesn't matter if you're going to try to triple switch or scram, whatever your terminology is, or if you're just worried about overhelping. But what's going to happen is guys pull in, okay? And here you can see the way that they read it. And in Europe, I think they do a really good job of teaching. When you are attacking the switch, just like when you're playing the pick and roll. In the pick and roll, they're not worried about the two defenders in the pick and roll. They're watching the three defenders off the ball, because one of those three guys is going to help. One of those three guys is going to get lost with off-ball movement, right? And oftentimes you can attack that guy. Those guys in Europe are so good at reading their defender and the big defender. They know early pocket, late lob, late pass. They read that clear as day. And what they're so good at is reading the help, right? And so now, very simple, the switch has created the advantage of the closeout, right, on the triple switch scram. Now they're in closeout basketball. And so now this is what you've got to think of in terms of offense. Create the advantage. The advantage is created on the defender pulling in. Now keep the advantage. Attack that closeout. Do two players commit to the basketball? And this is so important in the way the game is played. Watch how many times in American basketball two players are on the ball and we don't get off. Just very simple. Now I've put this together for our players next year. And it's a bigger focus. I didn't do a good enough job. I've got over 200 clips of just simple things of once two players are on the ball, pass it. Very simple. We take the extra dribble, the extra two dribbles, we hold on to it, get off the ball. So here, perfect clip, create the advantage, keep the advantage, use the advantage. Two players on the ball, wide open guy. And you'll see they move the ball, which oftentimes they're willing and dedicated enough to generate that great shot, even if there's 1 second on the shot clock, right? But now we've got the switch. The defender's pulled in on the weak side. He's who you attack through. Bang, close out basketball. Two on the ball, kick it. And so this is something, like I say, I'm going to spend so much more time next year on focusing on attacking the switch through the advantage, aka the help defender. Here you can see, right? The guard is switching on the big. The bigger wing is pulling in to be in position to help, close out. And then getting your guys good at closeouts. As I said, half-court offense these days is played through the closeout. Just watch them pull in naturally. And it's just what happens. And if you go through and you watch, same thing, NBA playoffs, you'll see it. One of the three defenders oftentimes is going to turn his head or pull in, overcommit, overhelp, because they're worried about the big attacking the guard, or they're worried about the guard attacking the big. It's this very good way to attack the switching defense. Watch Datomi pull in, close out. And CSKA is excellent at it. And what they teach, they do a really good job of this, and Coach Hitudis spoke about it on his clinic, is they really look at the big defender and they oftentimes pass fake to him, just even to draw that defender in more. And like they're really doing it as a misdirection to really pull that help defender in or get someone else to commit to it. And it's a really effective way. And NBA teams do this too. Don't get me wrong. NBA teams play through the advantage. They also do that. My point is this: we don't do it enough. It's not a big enough point of emphasis for us, and it's something that I'm guilty of. My teams, they got better at these switch concepts, but I'll say from day one I will focus a lot more on it. Okay, now you've got the switch right through the penetration, and same thing. Nigel Williams-Goss just kind of watches the ball, turns his head, advantage created, Maggette cut style action. Same thing here. Big happens. Now this is a little bit more stagnant than normal, but here you just see kind of the drive, the overhelp. Now they're in rotations. Any questions?
None here.
Okay. So now we're talking about attacking switch through floor balance. So this is a concept that Zeljko Obradovic uses. It's a super, just watching a lot of their offense against switching defense. And for those that don't know, Zeljko Obradovic is arguably considered the best coach in the world, won 9 EuroLeague titles. He's the guy Coach Popovich talks about that he steals from all the time. Super innovative and creative, and the way he gets his team to play is just beautiful. But here you've got the switch. Okay, you've got the flash for the high-low, but also watch the weak side exchange, right? And what that does, right, is a few things. It's going to involve this guy so there's no help defender in that area. Really good, and they do an excellent job of getting to the corner. And I'll just kind of let this play, and you can watch just through this floor balance the way that they attack it, and they do a really good job of attacking the switch through this floor balance, and you can tell the way they've built in the automatics on it, and they're very, very good at reading all of the different options off it. So now this will kind of be your boomerang, right? Great floor balance for the boomerang. Really good floor balance. You've got this guy engaged here. He's worried about the flash. Strong side shooter. Bang, get downhill, attack that catch. Nice action. Okay, now you'll see him generate the three off it. The flash, he's lost. Skip three. Okay, now some different plays to attack the switch, right? And so when you think about attacking the switch, to me, you've got skill work, concept, tactics. Okay, and this is an action that Cody Toppert ran. He's an assistant coach now at Memphis, was the head coach of the Phoenix Suns G League team 2-3 years ago, was an assistant in the NBA with the Phoenix Suns. And once again, I'll say I stole this play for him. I ran this. This was, and I encourage every coach to have this. I have a switch package. So I've got a package to attack your switching defense or to provoke you to switch based off bad defenders. This is one of the plays that Cody ran. I stole it. Once again, I think this is one of the smartest plays I've seen anyone come up with, concepts to attack switching defense. I think it's brilliant. And so these are just all the different options, right? So this is if you got a 5 that can handle the ball, right? So bang, screen your own man, get downhill, layup. Okay, same thing. Now, once again, you've provoked the switch. The big is in help. He's over helping, what we talked about earlier. Kick out 3 if you've got a mobile big that can pass and decision make. Okay, now the switch is created. Okay, now you've got your boomerang concept to get downhill, right, on a single side corner, okay, with a shooter. Like, to me, this is a brilliant and beautiful play to attack switching defense. And we used it this year to provoke a switch and to attack the switch. For us, it was very effective. It was Cody Toppert's beauty. I mean, just, this is so smart. It's so simple and it's so smart, right? Just watch now how the big is in help. Okay, put him at the nail. He's out of position. Okay, and what ended up happening, and we'll see some clips of it, is the Charlotte Hornets stole it from Cody Toppert. It's a beautiful play. And it's one of my favorite things I've seen in terms of attacking, switching defense. And shifting and putting the right guy in position for who you want to attack that switch. Okay, now this is nice if you've got a big or a wing, big that can pass, a wing that's athletic. Watch how they screen under, what we talked about with the European concept. Now, if you got a big that can pass, right, oftentimes you'll see it in that 21 step with the guard to guard. Drew Holiday's excellent at that, just kind of creating that little contact, getting off. But it's a great addition to this play that Cody has. Right now, it's the Charlotte Hornets who stole it from him. Beautiful play. Another way to get into it. Putting that big in a closeout. Okay, next action to attack the switch. Watch this in terms of screening under. Once again, in the 21 pistol, whatever, where you've got the guard-to-guard screen and roll, same concept here. You know teams are switching, and now it's that empty step up, that light tap outside, let them get downhill. That's hard to guard against a switch. This is another play that was in my switch package. Okay, this is good for provoking a switch, attacking a switch, creating a switch on or off the ball. And this is just all from the EuroLeague, the EuroLeague quarterfinals. Zalgiris just ran this over and over against the switch. Just multiple off-ball movements, and you can see him attack Olympiakos' switch, in every way possible with slips, screens, miscommunications. For us, it was really effective. We just put the guy that we wanted on the ball into the first pick and roll, whether it was a guard or a big. We do it with our 4-3-2, but this was in our switch package play calling. Okay, same concept. All right, and then now it just kind of finishes just to show the last part of the action. Next play here, if you know teams are switching, right, just bang, that little slip out, duck in, punch. That Obradoiro ran against Fuenlabrada was really nice. Okay, now getting to attacking drop defense with skill work. So these are some things. Obviously, attacking the drop, you've got all your different hostage dribbles, the common things that guys are working on in their skill work. These are just some different things that I don't think are worked on enough, okay, in the skill work. And like I said, there's a bunch of different concepts, attacking the switch through offensive rebounding, attacking switch through the post, right, that I didn't put on there. It's just not enough time. Same thing for attacking drop, all your snakes, your hostage dribbles, right, the different skill work things that are common. A lot of people are working on that. These are just some things that I think are uncommon. Joe Ingles is a killer against the drop with that pass fake finish. Putting that little indecision, he's a monster against the drop. Once again, if you want guys to see, guards that are really good at attacking the drop, he's really good at reading the drop, attacking the drop. Obviously, his size helps. Play from Europe, just that little, you can watch the big defender, watch, bang, that pass fake, and it just shifts him over enough. Nice finish. Really good way. Okay, next, and once again, this kind of applies to all defense. Switch, show, ice, drop, doesn't matter. And I will say this is something we don't do a good enough job of, in my opinion, overall as a country in America, that in Europe they are great at. And you can go through and watch, once again, all of the NBA playoffs, and you will see multiple opportunities for this pass, and we don't take advantage of it. And it comes down to our skill work. Everything that is in the skill work, the individual work of our players, is them over dribbling the basketball, right? And the reality of it is this. I mean, most players play 98% of the game without the ball in their hands, right? And everything that they do is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dribbles instead of getting off the ball early. The moment two guys are engaged to the ball, Just get off the ball. And so this is just something that just simple, right? And normally when guys come off the screen and their pick and roll work, and you can go through on Instagram and watch, or whatever we're teaching, they take 2-3 dribbles before the pocket pass. Watch this. Point of the screen, 2 guys on the ball. This is it. The advantage is over. It is created with a dynamic roller and a penetrating guard that engages and puts pressures on the big. And once again, this applies to every pick and roll coverage. Every one. Watch this. Over. Solved. That's it. That's all you have to do. And you can go through and watch. 2 on the ball. Off. Early pocket. It's done. Now they're in rotations. It's just simple. That's it. And now there is a need to sometimes take 2 dribbles and do the hostage dribble and take 3 dribbles. Don't get me wrong. There's a value for your late pass, your late. We're going to get to some of that stuff. That's not basic. But this is undertaught and undervalued in basketball, in my opinion, in America. Bang, screen, it's over. This is it. The advantage is created. Look at the separation that we talked about earlier, right? It's a 2-on-1 situation. If you have a dynamic big that can get downhill, that's it. So all the big needs is that advantage. Now you got to build in the skill work, his decision-making off the early pocket. But most of these you are gonna see 1 dribble, sometimes no dribbles after the screen. That's it. Look at the advantage. Look at the separation. Big is committed to the ball handler, the separation between the guards, defender, and him. It's over. That's it. Like I said, I had about 4 minutes of these clips with then pocket decisions, right? But there's not enough time for all that, right? Because now the next step is when you get through this, right? The low guy's going to pull in. So now being able to read that, catch, not travel, not turn it over, that all gets to the skill work. But I'll say this, it's such a hard thing to get guys to do is this. It's over. This is it. The advantage is created. Okay, next thing is paint lob. Once again, these are not the basic passes. Joe Ingles is excellent at this. Just gets downhill, makes it look like a shot, does a good job. Just that high lob. Once again, it comes down to the level and the dynamic roller that you have, right? Do you have a big that can make that play? Okay, same thing. Here's Madrid with Tavares, Campazzo, right? Looks like a floater, looks like a hook. Just that paint lob, really nice. Next way to attack the drop, okay, is the late pass, right? So now you're attacking downhill. Your guard is being aggressive. You got 2 on the ball. The guard did not veer switch, right? Taking advantage of that with that wraparound pass, bounce pass, late pass. Okay, really good and effective way to attack the drop. These are all things, like I said, we do this on shoot-around game day. When we're warming up in shoot-around, guard big, late pass, late lob, trying to mix all these different reads in that are just not so common for our guards to get the habit of it. God, I'll say this I love. Kalathis is really good at this. That little delayed roll, that little pass behind his head. Once again, that's super high level. Not every guard can make that play, right? But that's really hard to guard. I mean, when you got 2 guys on the ball like that, you can just make that play. And once again, there's a skill level to it. Very hard to guard. Next thing, especially if you have a dynamic scoring guard in the drop, okay? Really effective way. Shot fake. It's like a hesitation. Shot fake, pass, bang. Shot fake, big raises his hands. He's going to stop retreating, right, if he's in a little bit of a higher drop situation. Also very effective against ice. But here you can see, bang, right? And then it's just the deeper the big is, the deeper you take the dribble. There, shot fake, right? Bigs struggle against shot fakes. They struggle to stay on their feet. I think it's a really good way to attack the drop. Deep drop. Get them in the paint, hostage dribble. Right? And and think about this, right? what are your rules when you veer, and how clear are your rules to your players? And then how well can they execute your rules, right? Because in reality, if the guard can't get up in front, for me, the guard is calling the late switch because he knows if he can or cannot get back in front, right? So now two are on the ball, the guard should be veering off, right? Miscommunications happen all the time, regardless of how clear our rules are. That's the reality of it. Really good clip here. Ingles gets downhill into the paint. Hostage involves shot, fake, pass. Same thing. Paint, shot, fake, pass. Hard to play against. Probably not drilled enough. Next thing, very quick. It's becoming a more common term, right? The Gortat screen. If you want to see NBA teams that are really good at it, the Celtics are excellent at it with Daniel Tice. They're really, really good. But it's a great way to steal 2-3 buckets potentially a game. Celtics get a lot out of it. They're excellent at rolling into it and sealing that screen. Very effective against ice, multiple pick and roll coverages. But basically, for those that don't know, you want to come off tight to the screen, turn the corner, keep the guard on your back, hostage dribble and engage them, allow the big time to roll, and then the big essentially just screens his man, and you can have an opportunity at a layup. Okay, next thing. This really applies to all coverages as well. But when we're talking about the two more modern pick and roll coverages at the NBA level are drop and switch. So it's what I spend a lot of my time studying, is utilizing rescreens. And what I want you to think here, okay, is fracturing the defense. Okay. Fracture the defense. What I mean is this. Let's say you've got your first screen. They play perfect. There's no advantage created. The drop defender is below the level of the roll. He's tight. He's engaged. Nothing has happened. You have no advantage. So if he plays 100% perfect on the first screen, he's going to be at 90% on the second screen. Now you have fractured the defense, right? Now you've created those little windows that we talk about for your rejects, your early pockets, all of the different concepts, right? So here Tavares does an excellent job, right? The guard is tied to him. Hand is in, taking away the pocket pass. He's below the level of the roll. Come up, bang, put him in a rescreen, out of position, shot, fake, pass, right? What we talked about earlier, bang, shot, fake, pass. So I think rescreens are extremely valuable in attacking the drop, right? Bang, rescreen, fracture the defense. And high-level guards, all they need to attack the defense is that fracture, that little bit of window, that little bit of advantage. Okay, now for your third, fourth, fifth guard, may not be helpful, right? But that's against the best defensive teams, right? For everyone else in the league, if they're 100% perfect on the first one, they begin to drop to 80. Or if they're 90% perfect on the first one, they begin to drop to 70. And all you need is that fracture of an advantage to attack the defense. And that's what we're talking about creating here. Next, basically same concept as rescreens is multiple pick and rolls. So watch here, Tavares, Real Madrid. Okay, you've got one screen. Okay, two screens, pretty good advantage. Three screens, flip screen, right? Look how many screens. Finally, he gets cracked on the screen. He overcommits. Advantage created. Quick finish. Same thing. Try to let it play because of time. One screen. Two screens. Advantage created. Jake Cohen pulled in. And so now forcing these drop defenders to play against 3, 4, 5 pick and rolls in the same possession, okay, is going to allow them to create that advantage. The other thing I want you to think about is this. Come the third and fourth quarter, those bigs are worn down and those guards are worn down. The guards have had to fight through 3, 4, 5 screens. Your bigs have had to defend 3, 4, 5 screens. And as fatigue sets in, you begin to not only fracture the defense, now you're going to crack that drop. Multiple pick and rolls, rescreens, second side. Really good here. And this is good. Same concept. High pick and roll to side pick and roll. High pick and roll, first pick and roll. I will argue this. Ideally, this is a little bit deeper, but deep empty corner pick and rolls are a very effective way to attack the drop because it will stress and stretch the nail defender and your low defender, either getting them to overcommit and opening up that corner drift or that 45 cut, baseline cut. Okay, right? And so ideally that is below at about the break, below the free throw line. Low step up, same concept as the deep empty corner pick and roll, right? It is going to stress and stretch the drop defender. So I like it right below here at about the break. So watch this. So now if he's in a good drop, look at his alignment. If he's solely just dropping backwards, his head is at the rim, which means that you've got that pocket pass to use the rim as a protector for your big. You've got the lob pass at the point of the rim, which the big is just backing up into the rim, or the big will overshade to the roller, which allows for your different skill work finishes. But I think it's a super effective way here. Igor Kokoskov attacks Red Star. Red Star here is attacking Igor just with that same thing, deep corner drop. Now Igor will attack Red Star. Okay, same thing. Step up DHOs out of the post, right? You keep dropping backwards. It's just hard. You're going to be under the rim with an athletic big. Okay, here, Pelicans were really good at this. Okay, the offensive efficiency was really high. Great pick and roll. Look where he's backing up to, right? And that pocket pass with a dynamic roller, very hard to guard.
Ryan, we have about 10 minutes.
We've got 7 minutes of video, so that's the complication, but we shall do our best. Joe Ingles here, same thing, early pocket. Okay, now combining what we talked about earlier. Okay, empty corner step-ups against the drop plus that 45 cut. Here's the rule. Roller first, cutter second. Okay, because the roller is going to attract the low man, which is going to make Harden here, the X-out defender, begin to fan out to take Crowder, which opens up the cut for O'Neal. Roller first, cutter second. I'll try to let it play a little bit more. Okay, and ideally it is a dynamic roll. Another way to attack drop defense. Okay, this is Demetrius Itoudis's brilliant idea because bigs are so used to just being back. Utilize them in off-ball screens. Utilize them in off-ball flares. Once again, this is not my idea. It's not something I even recognize. A lot of these concepts I recognize from watching so much film. Coach Itoudis was kind enough to do a clinic, and he spoke about it. And once again, it's like Mayday. It's something so simple, but so brilliant, just as a way, because those, especially against deep drop teams, they just sit back so deep. They're not in position to help off-ball flares, which are hard enough to guard. Now, here's just a few tactics, few sets, and attacking the drop. Okay, once again, I recommend having a drop package. Okay, so same thing we talked about earlier. Low step up. Look where the big is at. Okay, to now the deep seal, what we talked about earlier, and attacking the drop. Really effective way. Spain's national team against the drop. Look at Gasol. Okay, their coach is an assistant for the Raptors. Really great way. Now watch the angle of this stack pick and roll. Okay, so now you got the big in the drop. Look at the back screener. Watch the C pass. 1, 2, smart way. Smart way to steal 2 points against a drop. Okay, this is brilliant. Okay, watch this. The way he just engages his own defender and screens the drop defender to open up. You know, similar concept here. It's kind of like a Spain stack pick and roll, right? But like just kind of screening that guy to the side so he can't get in when you got a dynamic guy that can get downhill. Okay, watch this multiple pick and roll. Watch the angle of it. You know, I thought that was really good. Okay, really good way, off-ball cut. So this is something Mancho Fernandez, the way that he attacks the drop, spoken on a clinic. Once again, his idea, his team, beautiful. They screen in the low man so he can't help, right? Knowing that this guy's going to get in help, thinking that it's a two-side so he can pull into the nail and then just cutting that guy to the corner. Really smart. Very effective way. Okay, now attacking ice defense. Very first rule of attacking ice defense. Ice defense does not exist. It is not real. Very few teams actually force you down to the screen. What ends up happening is you'll hear the defense call ice, 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 and we choose to go that path, right? So now using the screen is like rejecting the screen. And you'll see, okay, number one, just use the screen. When you play against ice defense, and you can go through the best ice defensive teams, okay, and you will see them play it like this. You could say, oh, that's not good ice defense. I've gone through the best college teams that play ice defense, okay, on different clinics for college coaches and showed them, right? Sometimes they do a good job of getting on the hip, push them down. Oftentimes they're just standing there, right? Their body is turned. And you just use the screen. Very first option against ice defense. It doesn't exist. Play through it. Use the screen. Screen the defender. Create the advantage like rejecting the pick and roll. Here, ice defense. And this is the key, right? If the ice's top foot is below yours, it's over. If they're not splitting your body, pushing you down, it's over. Next, be aggressive. Right? Don't allow them to get in ice position by being a threat. Attack your defender. This is us in Jerusalem. Okay. They like to ice aside defense. Okay. We were being aggressive, attacking them, getting them below the free throw line. Because we are aggressive in attacking that defender, you force him to square you up. He can't jump on the high side to ice you. Early pocket. Same thing. Shelvin Mack here. Attack, be aggressive, okay? Very key important point. Put your shoulder into the defense. If you are a threat, if you are being aggressive, they can't jump high side. Now you get your inside shoulder, max left shoulder into him, get it into his chest, create that separation. Screen's got to be on time, okay? Now you've put him into the defense. Next, pick and roll setups, what we talked about earlier. These are a little bit different. Okay, so now if they are icing and they do a good job not allowing you to use a screen, now you've got to be aggressive and attack to shift that ice defender lower, right? What ends up happening, if you attack full speed and you stop on a dime, your defender's momentum is going to carry him forward. Now the advantage is created. Look at that. Good ice, good ice. Little jab step below the screen, use the screen, you fracture the defense, advantage is created. Pick and roll setups are key. Look at him in ice, right? His top foot is above his, so now he can't use the screen. Watch what Gal Meckel does. Tack downhill, shift the defense, use the screen. Points per possession against ice defense, okay, jump significantly if you can get the ball back the middle. If you can get the ball to the middle. Same thing. Good ice defense. Attack aggressively. Shift the defender. Screener has to be on time. Very important to crack the defender. Now what we have. Crack the defense. 2 on the ball. Early pocket. Advantage created into the post. Okay. Good deep position. Take it. Okay, advantage created on the pick and roll setup against the ice. Shot fake pass into this seal. You've put the big defender, right, in rotations, over helps, kick out 3, what we talked about earlier. Okay, watch here. Ike tries to ice. Shift him low. He's in good position. Look at his top foot. Not exactly easy to use a screen. Shift them low. Pocket decisions. Okay, utilizing butt screens from the different college coaches I've spoken to, right? Depending on the league, they're legal. But it obviously gives your big a huge advantage on that butt screen to now he's facing the rim, can get downhill. Amari Stoudemire for us in Jerusalem was excellent at it, but it's an effective way if you can do it in your league, right? You've got to teach your bigs not to extend their butt so they don't get the foul. Okay, it is effective at the NBA level, at the college level. You know, different leagues that I've spoken with on Zooms with coaches have said they can do it, they can't, depending on how their league is ref. Okay, next, if you play against a good ice team, throwbacks. Okay, so here they're in ice position. Amari Stoudemire's dropped down. You hit the big. Now watch what happens. The guard relaxes, chase it. Now you've used it to get to the middle. Obviously, your bigs can get really good at keeps. And I'll try to let this play. I know we're getting lower on time. Okay, good setup on the back door. And there's a lot of ways to attack ice, right? Hit the big, backdoor cut, hit the big reverse pin down. But this is a really effective way to get the ball back middle, right? Is just throw back and chase. You know, depending on what your terminology is here, right? This is a nice set play that we ran in Jerusalem. Okay, Maccabi weaks it. They try to keep it on the side, hit, chase, pocket, ball to the middle, over, solved, right? You've got to get your players to have the mindset that ice defense doesn't exist, right? There's a lot of ways to get the ball to the middle of the floor against the ice. Shot, fake, pass. And I know a lot of this was quick. I know I went through a lot of concepts. Okay. I have longer edits of basically all these subjects that I'll give DeLayson and Coach Tube. So, you know, if anyone wants longer extended edits of these, it'll be available. But here you can see, right, just all playing through that, right? And then now getting to the corner action. Okay, so really good way to attack teams that are icing it on the side. Hit. Now you've got your corner, all your backdoor cuts. Really good way to put them in rotations. Very simple, especially, you know, the NBA is now playing a lot of that corner action through delay. If you watch Rick Adelman's offense. Okay, and the next is just second side. Just keep the flow, right? So here Maccabi ices it. Okay, hit the big, pop, second side. Very hard to ice it, okay, on one side and for the big to get to the other. Pop them, attack second side. You're going to end up getting the ball to the middle. Then obviously you can get into all your different cuts, concepts, depending on what your offensive philosophy is and what you're running. But pop, hit, cuts, off-ball cuts. Okay, and then you just continue right to your second side, pick and roll, which will get the ball to the middle, breaking down the ice defense. Any questions, Layson? Anyone have anything?
You know, there are some questions, but I know that we're kind of at the end here for this session. Probably what would be the best way for anybody to maybe follow up with you real quick? I know you mentioned the extended cuts.
Let me give my email address. It's just my name, ryanpannone@gmail.com. I can try to type it in. I don't know how to type it in this Q&A. But Layson, you have my email if you just want to put it in the group chat. And for anyone that watches the video later, it's just Ryan Pannone, RyanPannone @gmail.com. Happy to help in any way that I can. Feel free to shoot an email if there's any questions we didn't get to.
Ryan, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us. This was phenomenal. Always enjoy picking your brain and getting your thoughts on things.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end this session so we can get ready for Kobe Carl coming up next.